What's up, Stuart the Fragrance Press, and before we move on to the colder months that are coming, October, November, December onward, autumn and winter, I wanted to give summer a proper send-off with one of my favourite fragrances that I have bought this year, my favourite summer-based fragrances, and that is right here, Bulgari Man Wood Neroli. So it's interesting, I haven't actually had this fragrance for too long. I've actually only owned this fragrance for about three and a half weeks, but it's not been that difficult to review because it is just so straightforward, it's so simple, it is a reference to many different fragrances that you already know about, that all of us already know about, but it's just so done so cleanly and done so well that I was able to grasp the concept and the theme of what this fragrance was pretty much immediately. So I've mentioned quite a few times recently that a big philosophy in fragrance is this: the cleaner a man is, the sexier a man is. And this is not untrue. In fact, this is a very truthful statement. There's even scientific evidence to back up that on an evolution basis, that if you do smell clean, you are more attractive to the opposite sex because it shows that you take care of yourself, and it also shows that you have a healthy smell. You know, if you smell of sickness, if you smell ill or repugnant, then that's not going to be attractive. That just is common sense, obviously, but it is true to that philosophy. It's quite bizarre then that a lot of people, I'll say I'm a little bit guilty of this myself, we will, in the fragrance community, quite a few of us will go after smells and scents that just smell as though somebody's been sick on us, or we've had a lot to drink, or we've just covered ourselves in coffee or covered ourselves in soil. It's quite a bizarre thing. That's why, you know, niche, as popular as it is, in the fragrance community, in the mainstream, there will never ever be a real demand for niche fragrances. So the scent, and this is ultimately why I love this fragrance. I'm just going to spray a bit on here. But you see, the thing is that this is just so straightforward. This is in a long line of Neroli based fragrances that you're all aware of. Neroli Portofino, Acqua di Parma Colonia. I can never get the numbers right because I was always bad at maths in high school. 1411, 174, 4711, that one, yeah. There's a plethora of fragrances. Some of Tiziana Terenzi's fragrances smell like this. Armani Code Sport, the Chanel fragrance that smells exactly like this. Even the Christian Dior, I think was part of the private collection. I don't know if it is now. I wouldn't be surprised if they got rid of it. The Cologne one. This is a very, very standardized fragrance. But you know what? Bulgari are allowed to do that because they are Italian, and as far as I know, the Italians, it actually started off in Germany, this style of cologne. There is a place called Cologne in Germany, and they started off this trend, but it was the Italians that brought it over. Acqua di Parma has a lot to do with it, of course, and they really brought this DNA into the forefront of the market. Now, it isn't all that. I just want to say that, and that's why this review isn't completely redundant, but it is interesting to talk about this history. Now, one of the interesting things is I have a series at the moment going on called Is It Still Good in 2019? And some of the fragrances that I've talked about have been no, in particular 212. And there will continue to be fragrances where I say, look, this fragrance DNA is old, it doesn't smell as good, it doesn't work as well, it's not as relevant now. But yet this DNA, this has been around for, I'm not kidding, over 100, maybe 200 years. And it is still as relevant today as it was back then. There are still people pining for this fragrance style, and that in itself, to me, is just amazing. That to me is just like, how on earth? And that's because I think that citrusy blast that you get in the beginning of this fragrance is just so familiar. It's a thing that we can really relate to as human beings. You know, we've had orange juice before. We know what lemons smell like. Lemon has a very ethereal, citrusy, yet a little bit of a spiky tone, and it's just, you know, we've smelt lemons in all which way, whether it be in cleaning products, whether it be in detergents, whether it be just, you know, a fruit bowl, just you know, sitting on our kitchen table. But all of these experiences accumulate, all of these experiences add up, and so we have a fondness for that bright neroli citrus lemon. And this is just done absolutely fantastically. It's done just brilliantly by Bulgari. Bulgari are very masterful in their fragrances. I think that Bulgari Man is probably one of the most underlooked and underrated fragrance men's lines. But this is just fantastic. It's tangy, it's citrusy, it's just brilliant, and it just captures it wonderfully. Now, this isn't completely redundant, because as we dry down, we do get a little bit of that woodsy nuance that you will find in perpetuity in all of the Bvlgari Man fragrances. It has that kind of dusty, woody, classy, sophisticated wood that's just in the bottom, and this is fantastic. And so there's also a little bit of a talcum powderiness to it, which I do not like, and it will lose marks for that. But this is just a fantastic, straightforward, clean, citrusy designer that is in reminiscence, that is almost paying tribute to all of those previous fragrances and to that original cologne DNA that we're all so familiar with. But it does have that lovely Bulgari, sophisticated, woody edge just in the bottom, just keeping things steady, keeping things real. But there are some elements that I don't like to it. I don't like that talcum powderiness. I feel as though we do get a little bit synthetic as we really dry down, and I'm not too happy with that. But the opening, the mid, is just fantastic. If I was to rate this, which of course I will, because that's literally the whole point of this video, I would give it a 4 out of 5. Another great thing about this is the performance. The performance for a neroli-based fragrance is usually not really anything. That's why I say, I talk about Neroli Portofino, but the price of that is an absolute joke. It's very difficult to get any performance out of Neroli if you're trying to do this kind of DNA, because it has to be light, it has to be clean, as we've talked about. You can't add too much to it, because then it will not be what this is. It will be overbearing, it will become something else, something different, and the balance will be lost. However, the price that you pay for that is that usually you get bad performance. Now, I'm not going to say that this is amazing performance. I'm not going to say it's a 5 out of 5, oh my god, holy hell. But I'd say that the projection is pretty damn decent for what this is. It can fill a room on first spray. I've sprayed this a couple times, and I've had friends round and they have just smelt a wall just coming at them, and they have complimented, but we'll get to feedback in a bit. So this is a really great, strong start. And I'd say for the first 2 hours, this is really bloody decent, really bloody good, in fact. You get a really good sillage, you get a great scent cloud, and it tries to do everything for you to just hold it in, you know, to hold on in there. But after the 2 hour mark, the 3 hour mark, it really reins in. I'd say that you get at least 4 hours solid sillage, and then after that, after the 4.5 hour mark, definitely after the 5 hour mark, then we're going into skin scent territory very quickly. But that ain't bad for projection. That ain't bad at all, especially with something like this. That's phenomenal, really. So I'm going to reward it justly. I'm going to say this is a 4 out of 5. Okay, in the context of what this is and what this really should be capable of and what it shouldn't be capable of, this is a pretty phenomenal scent, and probably one of the greatest performing scents with this neroli-based DNA. Longevity is pretty much 6 to 8 hours. And then after that, no, mate, it's not really happening. 8 hours is a good solid amount of time for a cologne scented fragrance. So that's good as well. I'm happy to give it a 4 out of 5. But again, it's contextual. I hope that you understand that. But yeah, after 8 hours, that's not really a big deal. It's not going to happen. And like always, in high heat, it does very, very good with performance. Now, feedback has been off the chain, to be completely honest. Feedback has been brilliant. Like I said, I only got this a few weeks ago, but I've had a tremendous amount of compliments. I've had a tremendous amount of people saying that they like this and saying, wow, that smells clean, that smells fresh. I've had people, you know, digging their nose into my wrist and going, bloody hell, that's really good. So I think that that's a testament to what they've done with this fragrance, as in, you know, Colonia by Acqua di Parma doesn't really get anything because it smells old. You know, it smells old man-like, it smells grandma, grandpa, and that is because the Neroli is too harsh, it's too rooty, and that just puts people off. You know, other fragrances, they just don't seem to have the balance. Like, with these kinds of fragrances that are coming out now with this DNA, they're either too watery or they're too rooty. This has got all of that compacted into one and has a great balance. I think that they've paid for it in certain ways. That's why I get that kind of talcum powderiness. I think that, but it's a small price to pay realistically for what you're getting. So yeah, the compliments have been fire, really. They've been thick and fast. A lot of people really loved it, and that's because I think that this fragrance does take the best elements of everything that I've talked about and, you know, produces it to a high level of quality. So feedback's brilliant. I would give it a 5 out of 5 with feedback because it has been such a short amount of time, but I've had about, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 compliments from this. I've had a lot of people just saying, wow, that smells great, that smells nice, without anything being said, and that's a big thing. You know, I haven't asked anybody because I've just been going about my business with this because I already had my thoughts solidified about what this is already. I didn't really think too much about feedback, but it has gotten a huge amount of feedback in a very short space of time. So 5 out of 5. Overall, I think that you get it, really. But I'm just going to say this. This is that old school DNA, modernized, turned up to 11 with performance, and they've just tried to hit all of the correct notes with it and make it the best that they possibly can. And that's typical Bulgari. That's totally their pathos. That's totally their modus operandi when it comes to fragrances. And they've hit pretty much a home run. As I said, for some people this is going to be redundant, this is going to be yesterday's news already, this is going to be like, yeah, whatever, who cares? And I totally get that. But for me as a fragrance fan, as a fragrance fanatic who recognizes this DNA, and, you know, to me this is a lot about tradition as well. Bulgari is Italian, there's a lot of history within this scent style, and they've done it justice, and they've done it really well. So I wanted to put a video out there because I'm a nerd about this kind of stuff, as you know. And so Bulgari, well done, mate, well done. This is a great solid fragrance release, just brilliant. For some people it's just going to be whatever, but to me, as a bit of a fragrance historian and to somebody who really appreciates this style, you've really knocked it out of the park, dudes. You've really knocked it out of the park, so just fantastic. So I hope that that has given you all the information that you needed to know. I hope you've enjoyed this content. If you do like this and you've got some solid information out of it, please like, subscribe, leave a lovely comment down below, and I will be seeing you tomorrow. I'm the Fragrance Press. Cheers. I'm out.